Dlatego!
Hello and welcome to another episode of Fair 64 with me, your host, Yemmy the Ferret. I hope everyone's doing fantastic this week. I hope you had a good weekend. I hope you had a nice Christmas or a nice holiday. Either one, if your holidays are still going on, hopefully they're having a good holidays. New Year's is coming up, and there's not been that much news or things that I've done this week. So this is probably going to be the shortest episode of the year. I know I say that a lot. Well, I guess I don't say that a lot, but I know I say that sometimes, and then like the episode ends up being like an hour and a half, and it's like, oh well, okay. Technically, it's a little bit shorter than most, but yeah, we're just gonna sit back and talk about some video game stuff here before the end of the end of the year, and into the new year, of course. I hope everyone is having a fantastic day. I hope everyone is going to have a nice New Year's Eve, a nice New Year's Day. What are your New Year's resolutions? Because mine is to beat more video games. Now, that's not saying that I didn't beat a lot of games this year. And actually, my New Year's resolution from last year was to beat more new games. Because I had a problem, at least the last couple years at this point, of buying a game and playing maybe a couple hours or so, and then moving on to another game really quickly and not coming back to the game that I just bought. The game that I just bought for $60. Nowadays, it's $70. And after 2022, when games started becoming $70, and it was more of a detriment to not finish games, I said, you know what, in 2023 my goal is to beat more games that come out in the year, actually play the games that I spend my money on and beat them, because I do play them. That's not what I meant. I do play them, obviously, and I play them enough to have thoughts and give thoughts on the podcast, but I wasn't beating them. And I think part of it was starting up the final review, even though I did start off beating games. It's not like I didn't start off beating games this year, but it was a main goal for me to beat just the games that I bought, to beat them. And I know there's a lot of games that I bought that I didn't beat, but think about it this way. There's a lot of games I didn't buy this year because I didn't think that I would enjoy them, or wasn't like super into the rest of the games in their catalog. Look at Hogwarts Legacy, which any other year I would have bought because it's a game coming out and I want to buy games. Look at Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. A game that is obviously going to be talked about a lot. And I did have a conversation. I guess I didn't have a conversation, but Callus did come on and talk about the game a couple times. And I appreciate that because I didn't want to buy the game. And I know any other year I would have bought the game. I would have probably played an hour or two and been like, yep, this is not something that I'm vibing with. Or maybe I could be totally wrong. But there is something to be said about about Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild comparisons. I know they're two different games. Don't get me wrong. But it's one of those things that I don't really like Breath of the Wild. I'm obviously in the minority about that, but I didn't find Tears of the Kingdom to be looking too that intriguing to make me jump out of my seat and go, I gotta play that right now. But that was my main goal of 2023, was just to finish games, and any game that I buy, give it a good college try at least to get them done. And this year I did make an oopsie early on by buying Forspoken, which was a game that I kind of figured was going to get a lot of talk about and then fizzle out, and that's exactly what happened. And I knew that I had to strike when the iron was hot, and so I did. But I regret buying the game in the end, because even though it was fine, I didn't mind it. I knew in my heart that I would not get through the game, mostly because of like the narrative and the story. Some of the voice lines kind of annoying, but even then, like I kind of the gameplay was not anything that I was super into. Things like Final Fantasy, even though I really was enjoying it, kind of fell off of because it's just such a long game. I played for like 20 hours, and I know I've beaten some longer games like Starfield this year. I put 60 something hours into. But it's one of those things. It's like I'm enjoying it, but you take a break, and sometimes you just don't go back. Other games that I just didn't generally beat, but I bought Armored Core 6. I really feel bad about this one because I love the game. I really do. I really think it's a great game, but I just got to a point where it was either I replayed the level a couple times with a bunch of different builds and a bunch of different parts bought, and the boss at the end of the level was just kicking my ass over and over and over again. So I decided I'm going to take a break and I'll come back. And I did. I came back and I tried to do it again. And once again, I did about 10 tries, restarted the level with different attachments and different things bought. And I couldn't do it. And maybe today, before the year's up, I'll try and take another crack at it. But it's just one of those things. It's like, I appreciate everything that Armored Core does to help you along the way, to give you the ability to swap things out and stuff like that. But this boss it just kicked my ass so many times in a row, and like I said, I'll probably try and get back to it again, either today or in the coming week. I still got a couple weeks to go before the top 10 games contest is done. That gives me some time to try and finish up some games that I've been playing this year, whether they'll impact or change my top 10 list or my game of the year, which is very unlikely at this point. That's to be seen, but yeah, it's just one of those things. It's like, yeah, I try my hardest to get stuff. I tried my hardest to get new games done this year, and I will say I did finish a lot of them. I look at the games I've played this year from 2023, and I look at the games that I've beaten, and the list is a little bit lopsided still, for sure. But I think that there's way more games that I've beaten than not beaten. So games I've beaten this year: Power of 10, Handshakes, Hi-Fi Rush, Rhythm Sprout, Pizza Tower, Dead Space Remake, SpongeBob SquarePants: The Cosmic Shake, Wolong Fallen Dynasty, Dredge, Saga of Sin, Resident Evil 4 Remake, Meet Your Maker, The Death of Sonic, Dead Island 2, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, Humanity, Resident Evil 4, The Lord of the Rings Gollum, The Last Worker. I did not finish Redfall or Amnesia: The Bunker. Bleak Sword DX, Planet of Lana, Brotato, Pikmin 4, Lies of P, Bomb Rush Cyberpunk, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Goodbye Volcano High, Starfield, Cocoon, The Many Pieces of Mr. Q, Mortal Kombat 1, We Were Here, Expeditions: The Friendship, Assassin's Creed Mirage, Pizza Possum, The Tiny Sticker Adventure, Hellboy, Web of Word, Spider-Man 2, Alan Wake 2, RoboCop, Thirsty Suitors, Modern Warfare 3, Venba, The Talos Principle 2, SteamWorld Build, Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2, and Just Stand. Which is a pretty... I mean, out of all those games I just listed, I think I only skipped over about 5 or 6, so that's not too bad, all things considered. And if you are in the top 10 games contest, just as a reminder, games that I did not beat this year will not be ending up on the top 10 list because I didn't beat them. And I try and make that a point every year, but some people miss the mark on or miss that little tip that I give out. Other tips that I've given in the past that maybe some people haven't caught on to this year again. Number 10 is usually the guilty pleasure game, the game that I don't think is high art, but it's still really fun, and I played a lot this year. So just keep that in mind. The other tip that I gave at the end of last year, which some people don't seem to have picked up on again this year, is to look at the desktop background of my computer to tell you placement of that game. It's been the same thing for the past 4 or 5 years that I've done, and it's just something that I think people maybe forgot about. And that's all the tips I'm going to be giving for the rest of the year. I will be talking about games if I finish them, but at this point, I think that I've given enough hints throughout the last couple of episodes. And if you haven't picked up on them, you might want to go back through and listen to them, or go back and listen to the actual talks about the games when they happened on past episodes. And I usually recommend going for the one that's nearest to the last one that I talked about, or the last one that I talked about, because that'll be my final opinions. Same thing about like final reviews; those are also good to listen to, just in case you want to check that out. But yeah, going back to games beaten in 2023, I also did a big chunk of my backlog, which shows on my streamed games. I believe we streamed more than the past couple years. I would have to compare and contrast on my own. But we beat 73 games this year, which I believe is around the same amount that I beat last year. So we did not do better or worse, I don't think. We just kind of hit even, which. But we did finish some longer games at the beginning of the year, which caused maybe me to not finish as many. And of course, playing multiple games at the same time has actually helped with that. So I'm breaking up the monotony of not playing 12 streams in a row of Final Fantasy VII Remake. I am switching things up in the middle. So instead of playing Barnyard for 4 streams in a row, we play Barnyard, and then we also play Far Cry 4 or WarioWare or whatever we played. So that's also a nice thing that I did this year. Yeah, but I really smashed through some backlog games. I replayed some games as well, and I'm very happy with the output. Like in the middle of the year, we did a really great job of just kind of knocking games out, and then towards the end of the year, with Bunger Month being as rough as it was, we kind of petered out, and I did not complete as many games as I was hoping by the end of the year. But we still did a good job. I mean, we smashed most other people's records for games beaten on stream in like like some people for the past 3 years. I smashed their records just in this one streaming year. But yeah, and yeah, this is actually 2023. I finished the most games out of the past 3 years, which has been I've only been tracking my games completed for about 3 years now. So back in 2021, I only completed 104 games, and then in 2022, I completed 122 games. This year, though, we did a great job. We beat about 20 more games at 146 this year for me personally, which is great. I definitely want to see that number keep growing because I want to keep finishing games, So yeah, and you can maybe plus or minus like a half or a whole point because of DLC. Maybe like Valhalla DLC and Blue Shift DLC is in my completed thing. So maybe those all equal out to 1 instead of 2 separate. So you can maybe plus or minus 1. But yeah, that's the number. And if you want to track games yourself, I highly recommend the GG app. It's great. You can make lists and review games and all that stuff. So yeah, pretty cool. And it's looking like the last game that I beat this year is going to be Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2, which I just completed today. So let's go on. Let's go ahead and move on to the next part of the show, or actually the first part of the show is just a long intro where I talk about the games that I've been playing this past week. All right, so I finished Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2 this past week, yesterday really, at the time I'm recording this. And it was really enjoyable. Obviously, being a Smash Brothers clone, a 2D brawler, there's a lot of stuff to compare and contrast between the two. And they definitely tried to make All-Star Brawl 2 more like Smash Brothers Brawl, in a way. It's got this roguelite mode attached to it, which is the campaign mode. And you got to go through it like 4 times, complete the run 4 times in order to finish the main game. And I don't think it changes up enough through each run. It kind of got monotonous by the 3rd time that you beat the boss, and he's like, reverse time and next time. It's like, okay. But I will say that it was a pretty enjoyable time playing through it. Once I found the character that I really liked, I kind of just stuck with them, which was the Angry Beavers at the end of the day. The Angry Beavers were my favorite characters to play as, Reptar being a close second, and Nigel Thornberry being a close third. But I just found the Angry Beavers to have the best move set for me personally. I really enjoyed them. But yeah, the roguelite mode, it's kind of what you expect. You go from arena to arena, and sometimes in the arena there's like a group of enemies who attack you, or sometimes you fight like a mind-controlled brawler, kind of like in Smash Brothers Brawl, or even Smash Brothers Ultimate, really. And there's also other rooms that you can go to with like little mini games, like open the chests along a platforming challenge, or pop the balloons, kind of like the Target challenge in Smash Brothers Melee. And each character, and actually, interestingly enough, each character has their own pop the balloon um, mini game. It's different for each character, which is actually really nice. Like they put a lot more work into that than I was expecting, really. And then the other rooms that you can go to have like upgrades for you. These are either shops or people or characters who just give you an upgrade, and they each kind of represent a different form of upgrade. Like Mrs. Puff is for like regular attacks, and the girl from El Tigre gives you like special enhancements to your attacks, and Gur from Invader Zim gives you like projectile attacks and upgrades your projectiles and stuff like that. And then there's like Cinnamon. Is it Cinnamon Puff Man? Powdered Toast Man. So he's like a shop, so he has a random assortment of goods to help you out. Same thing with the Cabbage Man from Avatar. He has like he has more healing stuff or items that you can use. And there's also one other shop that I'm forgetting about right now who also gives you upgrades. And really, it's all about combining the upgrades to make your character stronger. Like I really focused on getting the projectiles, the ones that shoot automatically, because you can upgrade your projectiles to have like 150% or 200% strength if you get a good run, and that like wipes out bosses and wipes out regular enemies in like a couple, like one hit for regular enemies and like a couple hits for bosses. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of insane. And on my last build, I had two different firing projectiles, one that kind of comes and splits and one that follows the enemy. So I was doing like triple damage on each of those hits, which was really nice. And it really did help the monotony kind of like settle down because I was getting through stuff pretty quickly. So in the regular arenas where you fight a group of enemies, they're enemies from like all different walks of life. So you have like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle foot soldiers, jellyfish. There's the plankton mind controlled residents of Bikini Bottom show up. Ghosts from Danny Phantom. The El Tigre fire skeleton people. There's like desserts and stuff from, I think it's Ren and Stimpy. There's an episode where desserts like go insane and try and eat people or something like that. There are the big buff dudes who were in like the SpongeBob movie. Yeah, there's just a bunch of different characters who show up. There's the little robots from Invader Zim are there. The flying bug people from, I think that's also Ren and Stimpy. It's either Ren and Stimpy or Rocko's Modern Life, one of those two. So there's representation from a lot of different properties in these places. Not only with the enemies, but also like the maps you can go on. Each one has like a different show. So like My Life as a Teenage Robot, you're on a famous scene from that movie. Not movie, TV show. Garfield, you're in like Garfield's Dream World, Lasagna Dream World. Yeah, there's just a bunch of different places that you go to from each property. And I do think that there's some properties that did not get enough representation, that could have used more representation in the game. But, it's whatever. I thought the roguelite mode with the multiple enemies attacking you at the same time, it was fun. The only problem is that the AI is completely bugged out for the regular enemies. A lot of times they'll get stuck and they'll just kind of stand there and they'll do like jerky movements that cause them to make a noise, and they just repeat over and over and over again until you come over there and like hit them. And I feel like the AI just needs to be tweaked so that they don't do that. And there's been multiple updates, but they haven't addressed that yet for some reason, even though it's a huge concern and a huge like, well, okay, the enemy is just stuck in a spot and they're doing nothing while I'm fighting everyone else. I mean, sure, it helps me because I don't get attacked by as many enemies at the same time, but also it is a detriment to the gameplay because it's like, well, now I'm not fighting as many characters, or I'm not having as much of a challenge as I should be having, which is unfortunate. And it's just a weird thing too. Like if you play the game and it was like in the first encounter, I started hearing this noise that was like, and I was like, what the hell is that? And I I was just looking around the screen, and there was an enemy just like twitching rapidly, making the noise in the corner, and a bunch of them were doing it at the same time. 3 of them were doing it at the same time, and I'm like, holy, what the hell is going on here? The regular AI combatants for the regular characters, like the mind controls characters that you fight with, are also kind of brain dead as well. I was playing on the normal difficulty, and I switched to hard difficulty eventually, and there was like no change in the AI. They were pretty much brain dead from the get go. Like sometimes, like on the Hey Arnold Lockjaw map, they would just fall through the center of the map. There's a hole in the center of the map that you can fall through. They would just walk off and fall into that and die. And I was like, okay. And there's other times where the enemy, or the person you're fighting, will just stand still and not do anything. And I'm like, why is this happening? Like, these. So, and then when the AI is working perfectly good, like fine, and on hard mode, it was actually a challenge, and I maybe lost a life here or there, or maybe took too much damage here or there, so I had to heal in the future instead of getting an upgrade. It was moments like that that I really loved, but then there were other moments where like the enemy, like they just fell off the map for no reason, or they walked off the map of their own accord. It's like, okay, weird. I guess it does make up for the fact that if I fall off of a stage, I usually just die. Even though I do like my up and square attack, which is like the one to give you a boost upwards, I still seem to fall off, and I have this problem in Smash Brothers as well, where I just can't get the rebound a lot of times. It really became obvious to me that I couldn't do any rebounds when we did like this tournament a long time ago, and I was like out in the first round because I fell off 3 times in a row, and I'm like, oh my god. Oh my god. And I was like practicing really hard with like Diddy Kong at the time too, and I like fighting the AI. They didn't really hit you off as much because they're AI, but fighting a real person is a bit different. And the same thing does go for this game, where it's like, okay, if you fight real people online, then yeah, you're gonna have maybe a bit of a tougher time, or you're gonna get hit off a few more times. And people online are obviously more competent than me at doing some things, so there's always that. It's a bit of a challenge, more of a challenge there. And yeah, so you go through the entire thing, and you meet bosses during the roguelite mode. There's 3 different there's 3 different sets of levels you can go to. The first one, it's either like the Jellyfish King or the Flying Dutchman. The second one is either the El Tigre villain or Shredder. And then the final one is going to be Plasmus, who is like the main villain of the whole game. And I never really found Plasmus to be that difficult, or the actual true ending boss, but it was still a fun time. I think they did. They tried hard. That's the thing that I want to say. Say what you will about the game. Say what I will about the game. They tried. Like they tried to make a great game here, and they almost succeeded. But it's just good, not great. Which is why in the end I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. I think that the game is a good brawler. I think compared to Smash Brothers, it's about as good as you can get right now for Smash clones. And it's definitely worth picking up if you are a longtime fan of Nickelodeon, because there's character representation from the past and the present. So there's a good mix of everything in there, from Ren and Stimpy to Invader Zim to El Tigre to Loudmouth to SpongeBob, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, to Angry Beavers, to all these different places. The only other thing that I want to mention is that a lot of characters that were in the first game did not show up. Helga, Cat Dog, Cinnamon, Powdered Toast Man. Like some of them are in the game. Like Helga's in the background of one level, and obviously Powdered Toast Man is a shop vendor, and Hugh Neutron is also a shop vendor. But it's obviously they had to clear the way for some new character slots, right? But I remember them saying that like every character from the last game was back, and that's not entirely true. I do like the new additions to the roster, like Gerald and Arnold's grandma and Jimmy Neutron and stuff. Like I like those additions, but I would love to have still seen the Real Monsters character or Cat Dog or Powdered Toast Man be on the active roster along with everyone else. I just feel like it's a bit of an L for the game to not have those characters back, and maybe it's because we're so conditioned after Ultimate to have like every character that we want from the past and the future, the past games and the present game. But yeah, I feel like maybe through free updates, they could add those characters back, or maybe those are characters that they just couldn't get the voice actors for, and maybe the voice actors didn't come back or whatever. I'm not sure. Maybe they didn't have the budget to pay the voice actor for Cat Dog to come back or whatever. I'm not sure. But anyway, 4 out of 5. It's decent. It's actually pretty good. But there's some things holding it back from being great. And every other mode in there is fine. Like the arcade mode is just you battle through a group of characters and get to the end. Online mode is just what you expect: 1v1, 2v2, 3v3, 4v4. 1v all, free for all kind of game modes. Nothing crazy there. There's also a tournament mode for play. Like there's the one on the All Star. This one says PlayStation, so I'm guessing there's no crossplay. So the PlayStation tournament, you go up against like a bracket of players and keep going. There's training modes and stuff like that. There's a whole bunch of stuff. There's like a gallery. There's trophies to earn. There's like a customizable emblem and like player cards. So there's a good amount of stuff here, and I think they did a great job with that. So there you go. In the end, 4 out of 5 for Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2. If you like what you hear, and if you like a good Smash clone, this might be one to think about picking up. Personally, I would not pick up the first game, but if it's on sale, check it out. I think that one was also decent at least. But when I was playing it, it didn't have voice acting, and there was like a limited roster. So, Nickelodeon All Star Brawl 2 is the full package from the get go at least, which is what you can't say about the first game. So that's nice. All right, I also played a game called Laika Aged Through Blood. I decided to pick this up after watching a video from Iron Pineapple, one of my favorite YouTubers, and it's a damn hard game. Like I've played a lot of Souls-likes, I've played a lot of RPGs, I've played a lot of challenging games, and there's something about the control scheme for Laika that has not clicked with me entirely. Having to control the motorcycle while shooting, while parrying, while flipping it around back and forth, while trying to keep it steady, while enemies are shooting at you, and you gotta do like platforming sections. It's just been a bit much, and I definitely want to get back to it. I only played like 40 or so minutes of it when I first picked it up, and I think I died at least like 30 times in that time period. Like it started off, and I was like, "Oh, this is cool," and then they started adding stuff on top of it, and I started dying more and more. And I didn't even make it to the first boss yet, which is unfortunate. But I will say that like the soundtrack is really good, the graphic style is really good. I especially like the kind of Western Mad Max inspired kind of post-apocalyptic world that they're going for. And yeah, there's not really much else that I want to say right now, but just know that I played the game. I think it's good, but it's a tough one to pick up and learn. It really is. It definitely takes. It's going to take a lot of patience and a lot of deaths for me personally to get through it. So if you don't like the sound of it, it is like a Metroidvania. It's dubbed a Motorvania because you're using a motorcycle. So if you want a Metroidvania that's a bit different than what you're used to, maybe check it out. But it also has like that one-hit kill mentality where it's like enemies die in one hit, but you die in one hit. So that can bring on a lot of frustrations, especially for a game like this that's so loosey-goosey with its control scheme. As for games I streamed, Lego Batman 2, DC Superheroes, we finished that up this past week. It's still pretty fun. There's some annoying bits to it, like Alfred reminding you that Superman or Green Lantern can fly constantly, but for the most part, we didn't. I did have a fun time with it. I thought it was fun. It's one of those Lego games that I feel like needs more variety in the character selection because for about 90% of the levels, you're only using Batman and Robin, and eventually you do use Batman and Superman, and then on the last level you get like the whole Justice League, I guess. But most Lego games you're kind of switching up characters, or at least switching up like costumes for characters as you go through. A good example would be Marvel's superheroes, where the first one and the second one, I guess, where you're just kind of like getting a new character in every single level, or you're getting a group of new characters, or Lego Star Wars too. Like you get like a new character almost every single level in that one. Even if they're just like an a older version of the character, like it's still cool to get a new character and see that pop happen while you're playing the game. And you didn't really get that in DC. I'm sorry, Lego's Batman 2. So in the end, I put it at the B tier. I thought it was a fun Lego game. Not my favorite, but still pretty good. Definitely better than the first one, I think. I think the first one didn't run as good as the second one, and I also think that having the voice acting in there definitely elevates it a bit. I think actually Lego Batman 2 was the first voice acted Lego game, which was pretty revolutionary. I think that Lego Batman 3 is still, in my mind, the best, but they should have called it Lego Justice League. Well, but I want to replay that game eventually, so I'll talk about that game when we get there. But Lego Batman 2, definitely still a good time, definitely worth your time if you're a fan of Lego games. But for a Lego game, it doesn't have some of the things that I want from it, like multiple characters being unlocked in a level, or stuff like that. I think that's the main thing that's missing. So it ends up in the B tier, and that is Lego Batman 2 is the last game that we streamed. We finished on stream. We are playing Neo, or we're going to be playing Neo in 2024. I just felt like it's time to give it another chance because the last time that I left off of it, I was kind of playing it and didn't really know what I was doing. And streaming it is going to help me because I will keep the controls fresh in my mind instead of taking breaks from it. So we're going to be doing that. And then also we're still playing Power Wash Simulator on the weekends on Saturdays, which is what I've been doing for like the last couple weeks now. Like I probably would have gotten Power Wash Simulator done by now if I had played it during the week, but I felt like it was a good chill weekend vibe. So we're probably about halfway, maybe a little bit more than halfway through at this point. So we'll keep trucking on that. And there is a mystery game that we're either going to be starting on Monday or Tuesday. Swing by on either of those days to see what it is. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next part of the show, which is What's in the News. All right, first up, Stellar Blade has been delayed until 2024, obviously. This literally came on Friday. This news article came up on Friday when the developer came out on a blog post and said Stellar Blade is an action-adventure game made its way onto PS5 next year. This hack-and-slash title puts players in control of the stylish heroine Eve as she takes on the Nightibas, a force of invading Earth, while surviving humans escape to an outer space colony. Stellar Blade combines sharp action with stunning visuals and a mature narrative to create something all new. Players will have to master a balance of offensive and defensive, a balanced offense and defense to survive against hordes of out of this world enemies. Oh my gosh. So yeah, this was the one that started off as Project Eve, and then it got turned into Stellar Blade, and Sony signed them, and they are publishing the game for them, and they've shown it off at a couple of state of plays now, and it's looked pretty good so far. I think that it's kind of got like a DMC kind of vibe to it, Devil May Cry kind of vibe. But anyway, yeah. So the game was supposed to be released in like late 2023, but obviously the developer had to come out and say, hey, it's coming in 2024. We missed our 2023 release window, so now we've backed it up to 2024, which I guess makes sense. It's the end of 2023. What are they going to release it on the 31st of December? I don't think so. With no pomp and circumstance. So yeah, take as much time as you need. I mean, there's still a good amount of games coming out early in the year, so they're probably going to be putting this out maybe later in the year if it is that close to being done. But at this point, the first part of the year, like January and February and even March with Rise of Ronin, is definitely stacked for releases. I mean, we got Helldivers 2, we got Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, we got Rise of Ronin, as I already said, we got the Prince of Persia game. Like, there's so many games coming out in the start of the year. It's gonna be it's a stacked couple months here, and that usually does not happen. But I think a lot of companies are getting back in the groove now, and they just start releasing games. So good for them, good for us, bad for my wallet. The GTA 6 hacker has been ruled a high risk to the public, and he's been sentenced to a life in hospital. So, if you don't know, the GTA 6 trailer leaked like a couple days before the full blown release of the trailer from Rockstar, and I do believe that he was. I maybe he wasn't associated. I thought that the story was that it was a kid who was like a son or whatever to one of the developers at the studio. But I guess that was false information. But the lad was a 18-year-old British boy who has had hacks in his history. So even though he's only 18 years old, he's done other hacks as well. This person was a member of an online gang called Lapsus Money, Lapsus dollar sign, however you say it. He played a role in other high-profile hacks for like into Uber and Nvidia, which cost those companies $10 million together. So yeah, essentially he's going to be spending a life sentence in hospital because they ruled him to be such a high risk to public life, which is kind of crazy. So essentially, how he hacked Rockstar Games, he was already under police protection. I guess maybe he came out and talked about this gang that he was a member of, and they had to put him in police protection. But while he was under police protection, he used an Amazon Fire Stick, a mobile phone, and a Travel Lodge Hotel's television to hack in the Rockstar and get the trailer and all the high value information. A representative from Rockstar said that this hack had cost the company at least $5 million, and thousands of hours of employee time. So there you go. So despite him being a gifted hacker, he is being sentenced to life in hospital, and maybe kind of like the Avengers, he'll be called upon to hack some sort of government enemy in the future. I don't know. That's me being facetious, but yeah, I mean, so young and so talented, he definitely could have used his hacking prowess for something more, I would say. But yeah, it's unfortunate, but he will be put away in this hospital, which is kind of weird. But yeah, adios, amigo. Xbox did a bit of an oopsie. They used some AI generated art for a tweet. Essentially they were like talking about indie games, walking in an indie wonderland. What were some of your favorite games this year? And they used AI art to make like a logo for the ID at Xbox. So indie developers at Xbox Twitter account used this AI art. Now, whether this was a flub by a intern or whether this was like an accidental post or whether it was on purpose, it's not sure because Xbox pulled the post right after it started to get some attention, and it was quickly deleted after that. Yeah, essentially, yeah, it was a picture of like ID Xbox, right? So you have the ID in like snow, and Xbox is down below in like green. Obviously, it looks like Xbox was added by a human because AI doesn't know how to fucking write words to be to be honest. But there's a bunch of like kids and like an adult playing in the snow, and it's just kind of it doesn't look like from face value, like looking at it from far away, it does not look like an AI artwork. But once you zoom in, you can see like the faces are all weird. Like the people are doing things like like this one person is like holding a stick and fishing, but there's no reel or rod or anything like that. It's just a very strange scene, and a lot of people were rightfully upset because it's like, okay, you're indie developers at Xbox Twitter account not paying like a small artist or an artist in general to make your Christmas greeting. Like, what are you doing here? Like, that's so ridiculous. You're a multi-million-dollar company and you can't pay someone to make some art for you. It's kind of crazy. And of course, justifiably, people have been tweeting about it nonstop. I guess it's kind of died down at this point, obviously, but it is a bit of like a low to promote indie games with AI art. Like you're you're not going to support like a small artist, but you are going to support these indie developers. Like it's just one of those things. It's like, come on. Like at this point, AI art is such a split topic, with most people being in the realm of, yeah, we don't want to see AI artwork, like especially for big companies like this. Like maybe I can understand it for a small company that's like just trying to, I don't know, survive on the money that they're making in any given week. But PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, stuff like that, they're not hurting for money. And Xbox is, honestly, after all the acquisitions, maybe Xbox is hurting for money, but it's still a multi-million-dollar company. You gotta pay an artist to make your greeting, or have someone inside your own like company do it, because I'm sure you have plenty of talented artists or visual effects artists or something like that inside of your own studios. Why not call up one of them and be like, hey, can you make like a Winter Wonderland indie centered picture for us? Instead of putting these prompts into an AI art generator, just give the prompts to the fucking artist. But I mean, yeah, this isn't going to tear Xbox to the ground, but it is going to leave a sour taste in people's mouths until the new year. All right, PlayStation has released a map of the best-selling games in each region. And you may or may not be surprised that most of them are the same. Most of them are literally the same, maybe a little bit of variation here and there. So in the good old US of A, the number one most played game and most downloaded game was Fortnite, followed by Call of Duty and Grand Theft Auto. In Canada, Fortnite, Call of Duty, Grand Theft Auto. In Mexico, Fortnite, Call of Duty, EA Sports, FIFA 23. In Central America, EA Sports, FIFA 23, Fortnite, and Call of Duty. In Brazil, EA Sports, FIFA 23, Fortnite, and Grand Theft Auto. In Lower South America, we got Fortnite, EA Sports, FIFA, and Rocket League. In South Africa, we have Fortnite, EA Sports, FIFA 23, and Call of Duty. In Spain, we got Fortnite, EA Sports, FIFA, and Call of Duty. In Germany, we got Fortnite, EA Sports, Call of Duty. In the United Kingdom, we have Fortnite, EA Sports, FIFA, and Call of Duty. I'm sorry, that was Scotland. In the United Kingdom, it's the same thing though. Fortnite, EA Sports, FIFA, and Call of Duty. It's the same fucking thing for every single one. Poland, EA Sports, FIFA, Fortnite, Grand Theft Auto. Italy, Fortnite, EA Sports, FIFA, Grand Theft Auto 5. Saudi Arabia, Fortnite, EA Sports, FIFA, Grand Theft Auto 5. The Arabian Emissaries, EA Sports, FIFA 23, Fortnite, and Call of Duty. Most played games in Australia, Fortnite, Call of Duty, EA Sports, FIFA. South Korea, Diablo, Elden Ring, and EA Sports FIFA 23. And Tokyo, Japan, we have Apex Legends, Genshin Impact, and Fortnite. A little bit different there. New Zealand, the final one, folks. Can you guess what it's going to be? Fortnite, Grand Theft Auto, and Call of Duty. So, not much variation over the different places. Even in the more niche, or I guess not niche, but maybe the more smaller markets, you still have, like Finland, it's Fortnite and EA Sports and Call of Duty. Like, obviously Europe's going to be a lot about that football life. America is mostly shooter games. But that's the thing, like everywhere is mostly shooter games. Like the only difference was in South Korea and Japan. That was really where the differences lie. Everything else was pretty much the same with a few variations here or there. But it is interesting to see what people are playing around the world. It's a little bit disappointing that Fortnite is number one almost everywhere, and Call of Duty and Grand Theft Auto 5 are on there. But next year, we'll probably see a shift. It's probably going to be Grand Theft Auto 6 and Call of Duty Black Ops and, well, who will be kidding? Fortnite. And finally, for the news today, Vampire Survivors has teased a new roadmap for 2024. After a nice little wrap-it-up presentation from the developer that showed off the 2023 year and what happened during the year, they showed off what the new roadmap is going to be. Now, they're not sure when exactly some of these things are going to be coming, but they do have a relatively planned out, I guess, list of things that they want to do. So I'm just going to name these things off, and you can take with it what you want. Pyroclasm, Hammer, which might be a new weapon. First Blood, I'm not sure what that is. The the co-op, so they're probably going to be co-op coming in. Mozzarella, Those people, whatever that means, Westwoods, maybe a new map, top secrets, final flight, house, emeralds, laboratory, and honeymoon. So maybe there's some new power ups in here, mixed in here. Maybe there's some new maps, some new characters mixed in here. Possibly some new elements like co-op might be kind of cool. I think there already is some co-op in here, but yeah. So yeah, I mean, this is a very strange roadmap. It's just a big spiral of words, and I guess they're not sure what's coming when, but we will wait and see. The first content drop is slated for sometime in early 2024, or the next update, I should say. But yeah, there you go. Not too bad. Not too bad at all. So yeah, that's the news for today. Let's go ahead and switch over to what's coming soon. All right, so Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, the remaster or remake, whatever they're calling it, has been rated for for ESRB, which means that it's probably coming around sooner rather than later. Now, there's still just a tentative date of 2024 attached to it, but with the ESRB rating coming around, that usually means that things are wrapping up and they are going to be released relatively soon. Now, it could be soon as in like summer or soon as in like in the next couple months. We'll have to wait and see. Maybe with the next Nintendo Direct, maybe it'll be a shadow drop. Who knows? But it received an E for everyone rating for mild fantasy violence, mild suggestive themes with no interactive elements with the suggestive themes, I guess. In a description for the ESRB, it says, this is an this is an adventure role-playing game in which players help Mario rescue Princess Peach from an alien group. As players traverse whimsical worlds, they interact with characters and engage in turn-based puzzle action combat against paper creatures. Players use various attacks, such as boot stomp, hammer strike, fireballs, against cartoony enemies that disappear into stars and coins. A handful of characters engage in brief, flirtatious dialogue, like, aren't you a fine specimen of a man? And perhaps if I grabbed you and gave you a little sugar, and or are designed with large chests or exaggerated proportions. So that's why, yeah, Miles suggested things in there. Now, the original ESRB for the GameCube was E for everyone as well, but only had mild cartoon violence attached to it. So they have definitely updated it a little bit. When I played through the game, yeah, I mean, you know, there's some big booby characters in there. There's definitely some Rule 34 bait in it as well. But yeah, you know, I mean, it kept the E for everyone, so, you know, I guess it's not as egregious as maybe we thought, but it's, I mean, yeah, this is gonna be I mean, I'm probably gonna buy Paper Mario: Thousand Year Door remake simply because Nintendo needs to see that this is the style of Paper Mario game we want or need, right? I played through Origami King. It was my first Paper Mario game, and about halfway through the game, maybe even a little bit less, I was like, damn, this combat sucks. Paper Mario: Thousand Year Door, though, the combat was fresh all the way through. It was fun all the way through. Maybe a little bit BS at the end of it all, but still, I really enjoyed the game, so I think it's definitely be worth checking out and buying if you want to, and hopefully that'll tell Nintendo what style of Paper Mario game we want in the future. Okay, Sonic Prime Season 1 is getting a Blu-ray release in 2024. Season 3 for this show is airing on Netflix in the coming month, but it seems like people have Eagle Eyes have spotted a leak that the Sonic Prime Blu-ray for Season 1 is going to come out in March of 2024. There hasn't been an official announcement from the Sonic team yet, or even Netflix, but it seems to be pretty much confirmed at this point. Just waiting for Netflix to catch up with these leaks. The first season is going to be priced at $20. There's no box art yet, but there will be a physical release, and we'll probably hear some updates from Netflix in the coming month or so. Bill and Ted's Excellent Retro Collection is going to be removed from the PlayStation 5, PS4, Xbox, Switch stores, etc. Now, when this originally came out, Limited Run Games was applauded for, you know, saving these games. You know, these two games, or was it 3 games? 2 or 3 games that came out for the Bill and Ted collection. because I guess they'd kind of been lost to time for a little while, and they were like, "Oh wow, congratulations, we saved these games." But despite their best efforts, on Twitter, the CEO of Limited Run Games, Josh Fairhurst, said that the games will be removed from the PlayStation Store, Switch, Xbox, all downloadable locations in January. So on the 1st of January, wow, you if you're listening to this now, hurry up. If you want to get this before it's removed from platforms. Um, People will be able to re-download it if they've already bought it, but the version to be purchasable will be gone. And of course, Limited Run Games is one of those companies that does not re-up many games. Like once they launch a game, it's like that's the amount of copies it's getting, and it's over. They really try and feed into that FOMO kind of world. But yeah, I mean, there's been some criticism lauded towards Limited Run for doing this. It's probably a licensing thing. It probably costs a lot of money to get the license to even release these games in the first place. And Limited Run Games, even though they're pretty big, it's still like a relatively small company compared to a lot of other publishers out there. But it was nice to see this get its second wind. I did not buy it myself, and I don't think I will be buying it because the games were. I mean, with all the criticism being lobbied against Limited Run Games for taking this down, you would think the games would actually be good. But for the most part, they got mostly negative reviews across the board from people. So it's like, well, what do you want? What do you want them to do? I mean, these games were reviewed poorly, and they probably haven't been selling anyway. But it is always nice. I will say this: it's always nice to have access to those games, whether they're good or not. It's obviously a personal thing, but it's always nice to have access to older games here and now and in the future. So it is sad to see them go, but I mean, I'm not going to make any excuses. It is sad to see them go, and they shouldn't be going, but whatever. All right, Horizon Chase 2, the sequel to Horizon Chase 0, was it called? Turbo? Horizon Chase 2 is officially coming over to the Xbox and PlayStation. It had a full year of Nintendo and Epic Games Store exclusivity. So Horizon Chase 2 will launch on Xbox One, Series X, PS4, and 5 in spring of 2024. There's no specific date quite yet, but we can kind of guess that's probably going to be like March, April, May, kind of, maybe even earlier. I'm not sure when it originally launched on Switch, but you can kind of guess around the time when it's going to be coming out based on when it launched on Switch and the Epic Games Store. So apparently the game was getting some updates to it, which had some Christmas-themed courses and holiday-themed courses, which is pretty nice. I never got around to playing the first game. It was released on PlayStation Plus, but I kind of figured it was kind of more like a phone game ported over to the PlayStation, so I didn't really play it. But Horizon Chase 2, I mean, it looks pretty good. I mean, just from some screenshots on Twitter that I'm looking at, it doesn't look too bad. I mean, for a racing game, it looks nice and cartoony, which is not a bad thing per se. But yeah, if you want to check that out, it's coming in spring, or if you want to check it out right now, it's already on Switch and Epic Games Store. All right, Expeditions, a Mud Runner game, has gotten a March 2024 release date, March 5th to be exact. This was shown off during the last Xbox showcase, whatever they called it. Or maybe this was during Gamescom 2023, but I think it was during the Xbox Game Showcase, so whatever, fuck me. So yeah, it didn't have a release date, just had 2024 attached to it, but now it's March 5th, 2024. It won't be launching day one on Game Pass, but it is coming to Xbox and Xbox Series S. I'm pretty sure it's also coming to like PlayStation and Nintendo. Maybe not Nintendo, but PlayStation. This is a sequel to SnowRunner, which is a sequel to the Mud Runner or Spin Tires or Mud Runner series. Yeah, I mean, it seems pretty good. I mean, the trailer that we saw was pretty well done. Nice graphical style. Like this game revolves around you like saving people stuck in mud or making your way to people stuck in mud and doing stuff with like these really cool looking vehicles. So yeah, definitely an interesting looking game. You can pre-order it now. It's coming out in March, right around the same time as Rise of Ronin. Might not be a good idea to do that. Alrighty. PlayStation Plus has announced their games, their essential games for January. Of course, you can download these the first Tuesday of January, which is the second this month or next month. So they've revealed that the games are A Plague Tale Requiem just for PS5, Evil West for both PS4 and PS5, and Nobody Saves the World for both PS4 and PS5. Three pretty good games, ranging from pretty good to good. Nobody Saves the World was one of my top 10 games the year that it came out. It was really fun. It's like a top-down action game where you can transform into whatever character that you have unlocked, and you can mix and match their play styles. It's a pretty good game. I really enjoyed it. Pretty funny. I like the art style too. It's by the same people who did Guacamelee, but it's definitely a different vibe than Guacamelee. Evil West is like a third-person game inspired by the God of War remake or reboot. I'm sorry, reboot. So essentially, it's like a third-person game where you're kind of like going from arena to arena, fighting enemies, vampires to be more precise, vampire-type characters. It's a pretty difficult game by the end of it. It's pretty good. It's decent. I didn't finish it myself, but it's a decent game. And A Plague Tale Requiem, I didn't get around to playing it when it came out, but I do remember playing a little bit of it, and graphically, it's amazing. I didn't really get into the gameplay, so I can't really talk about that. But yeah, I mean, Plague Tale Requiem. I mean, the first game was really good, so you can only guess that the second game is also going to be pretty good. So yeah, starting on Tuesday, you'll be able to download those. And finally, for today, here's some games that are leaving Xbox Game Pass on the 31st of December. That's actually today. So if you missed them, I'm sorry. GTA 5, Monster Train, and Naraka Blade Point Deluxe Edition are all leaving the Xbox Game Pass today, December 31st. So sorry if I missed out on those. I think there was a post before about all the games leaving Game Pass in December, and they might have been on there. I don't remember though. I just wanted to re-say it because I wasn't sure if I had gone over that or not. But yeah, there you go, folks. Let's go ahead and move on to the closing segment here, which is Guess That Game song. Guess that song. So I'll play a song from a video game. Just let me know what you think it is. Just give me the game's name and the song. I'm sorry. Oh my god, I'm fucking this up so bad. The song name or the game that's from. You would think that I would have this down by now since I've done it like 50 times. So yeah, the song name and the game that's from, that's all I need, and I will give you a super reaction in the Discord, or I'll give you a congratulations and a heart in the comments on YouTube. Let's go ahead and listen to today's song right now. All right, thank you so much for swinging by and listening to this episode of the Ferris64 podcast. I do appreciate that. Ferris64 is possible because of people like you listening and showing the numbers. It definitely makes it worthwhile to do it, and I just enjoy doing it in general. It's not just for the people. I also do it for myself. I really like doing these because it keeps me up to date on video game news, and I also get to spread my love for video games all over the globe. So wherever you are, thank you for listening this year in 2023. We had a great year for the podcast. I really appreciate everyone listening, whether you're in Europe or America, one of the Americas, North or South America, Australia. I don't care where you're at. Just thank you for listening, and I appreciate your support. If you haven't yet, make sure you check out the YouTube channel where I post the video version of Final Reviews and the podcast itself. So if you want a different way of listening to it, you can. But most people are listening on like Spotify and Apple Podcasts, which I also appreciate a lot. And if you are listening on one of those platforms, don't forget to leave the podcast a rating on Spotify or a review on Apple Podcasts. I would appreciate that. Also, if you haven't noticed, I have been doing the question of the podcast down below in Spotify, and also sometimes there's a poll as well. If you want to check that out, leave a response. I would appreciate that too. And yeah, that's about it for that. If you want to check out the other podcast I do, it's called Film Freaks with a Z at the end. We talked about Home Alone in the latest episode. If you want to check that out, just to round out the Christmas time festivities. I also am doing another podcast called Ferret Cafe. It's available right now in audio form on Spotify and other locations as well. If you want to check that out, the video version is available on the following Thursday. Every other Thursday, I do a live stream for it, starting around 8 p.m. Eastern Time. If you want to check that out live. And other than that, we stream on Twitch Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I'm sorry, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And right now we're playing through Neo and Power Wash Simulator, and one other game will be added to the mix in the new year. So if you want to check that out, we'll be swinging around and doing that. Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Have a great New Year's. If I don't hear from you, have a nice rest of your week. I am Yemmy the Ferret, and I am out of here. Thank you for listening. I'll talk at you next week in the new year. Bye-bye. The Ferret 64 podcast is owned and edited by Yemmy the Ferret. The song Nightshade, used in the intro and outro, is owned by Adhesive Wombat. Small sound clips during the podcast were made by Yemmy the Ferret. News sources include NintendoLife.com, PushSquare.com, and PureXbox.com. All opinions video game related are my own. Thank you for listening.